Alright, so I'm gonna get right into it. First and foremost, number one, real quick. This video was supposed to come out yesterday, but it didn't. It got scrapped, and I'm sort of like redoing it right now. So I guess second verse is same as the first. So Rise of the Ronin, right? This game is coming out March the 21st, and there's been a lot more first impressions, a lot more gameplay, a lot more talks and conversation coming out because we all know that PlayStation is focusing on third party for the entire year. There's not going to be any like big first party AAA bangers, just all third party deals, exclusive deals to push the brand while PlayStation Studios figures out what the fuck they're going to do with their single player affairs. So we have mostly these games to talk about, like Rise of the Ronin, like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, all this stuff coming out. Uh, Now people saw this clip, right, of this samurai, the whatever the fuck he is, this guy trying to traverse through the environment in the Rise of the Ronin gameplay, and the ensuing responses was talking about the game's visuals. And now I know where this is gonna lead. I know exactly what type of conversation this stuff brings up. Oh, well, I bought a PS5. It's not looking next gen enough. It's not looking like a true next gen PS5 eye popping, eye jizz experience, right? And there are people like that. They might say gameplay is king. They might say gameplay is law. But I believe in some realm, some bubble to a lot of gamers, there are people that will shit on a game for looking bad graphically or not looking good enough or on par, despite some of the ensuing and interesting counterpoints that people will offer as we go down the list. But before I get into that, I just want to say it's nothing wrong with this clip. It looks fine. It's a guy just traversing through the environment. Looks way faster and more crisp than Neo, in my opinion. And I want to see how the controls and how the environment, how everything supplements and marries itself together. But we have the ensuing responses. So, one guy says something rational like, oh, it looks like old Assassin's Creed. I like it. That's fair. And then we have not this response, not that response. It's mostly the responses of people comparing it to PS3 games. Oh, the graphics are bad. We got the PS5 for better graphics and gameplay, and we're not getting what we want. So, mostly speaking, it reeks of entitlement. There's this funny image down here from the guy that capped for Starfield, and then you see the Starfield character not really, you know, looking the greatest to prove his point. But, how I feel about this is, again, there are those people that will say, and I like visual eye candy. I love when a game looks like graphically crisp. I love realism. There's people that are against it. I particularly don't find an issue with liking graphical realism, but I also like fundamental games. The case in point for me is fucking Lethal Company. That game does not look like a triple A relevant banger where all the bells, whistles are tuned up. You can see the fucking rock formations, the rain glisten off, realistic graphics, etc. It looks like a blocky 2D retro pixelated a little bit experience. Like, it's supposed to give off that vibe, and I really liked that game for what it was. You know what I mean? It didn't negate the gameplay. It didn't negate the fun factor. There's this guy saying, PS3 graphics versus what people claim to be PS3 graphics. What kind of PS3 did people have? This is a screenshot of Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, and this is a screenshot of Rise of the Ronin. Clearly, Rise of the Ronin clears graphically. You know what I mean? Uncharted didn't look that bad for what it was back then, but clearly we have advanced. You can see the foliage here, a lot more detail. You know what I mean? It's just people saying that Rise of the Ronin looks graphically inferior and it's just not that great looking of a game. I mean, it might not be the most graphical. It might not be like something like a Last of Us Part 2, right? It's nothing close to that, but it still is pretty good for what it is. You know, art style and of course what they have at the time is really important. And as we go through more of these, you know, I'm gonna disagree with some things. Like, remember when video games were about fun and not about how much dumb, meaningless bullshit you could force in overcrunch developers to put in a game for your satisfaction of graphical capabilities of your favorite plastic box, and he's showing like Uncharted 4 and you can shoot the rocks and shit. You know, I thought shit like this was cool in Metal Gear Solid 2 when you could shoot bottles and they would break in the environment, and it adds a layer of suspense and realism and tension to overall gunfights. You know, I will never shit on stuff like that, but I also won't shit on a game that has like great fundamental gameplay, and it might look like a AA game, it might not look like a AAA masterpiece like Uncharted 4 or fucking Last of Us Part 2 or even GTA 6. Like, all of those games I'm looking forward to despite them being graphical junkies, and I also think that Team Ninja prioritizes really fun gameplay. That's their main motto, that's their stick. They prioritize really fun gameplay, and that's where the cream of the crop lies. Your Ninja Gaidens, your fucking Neos, your fucking Rise of the Ronins. So I'm not really going to say, oh, I'm not getting this game because it's not like Uncharted 4, you can't like slice rocks and everything and watch them fall. You know, while that is impressive, that is cool to see, that's not the only thing that is centered around a video game. There is various cogs in the wheel. We're talking graphics, we're talking music, we're talking performance, if there's any bugs, controls, there's a lot of other factors, and graphics is just one piece of the pie. You can still have a lot of pros in a game and still have, like, you know, either decent graphics or high tier graphics, or even graphics where it's like nothing that really matters, like a indie game or something like that, and it can still be a fun hand drawn or fucking 3D artist experience that you see, and it functions well and it plays well, but it's not like these top echelon AAA games that you see. And, you know, I think there are some good points that other people have made. Like the gaming community 1 month ago, they said games are too expensive to develop. Please make more AA games. Please give these indie and AA games more recognition and reduce the budget, because fucking Sony, PlayStation Studios, they have games that's like $200 million, big budgets, people getting laid off. Please reduce the budget. So now all of that has changed because you saw the graphics of Rise of the Ronin and you think it doesn't look that impressive, and you say, what's with the PS3 graphics? These are bad, I'm not getting in the game. He says it is another classic example of gamers who need to make their mind up. The game looks fine, and I think it looks fine as well. And let's continue on. You know, wow, the game looks so bad. Is this on PS4 too? It's another like Xbox dude that you can clearly see there's some sort of bias going on with that, and I mean it's pretty obvious at this rate. It's nothing wrong with liking Xbox, but considering that this is a PlayStation third-party exclusive and the rival console is Xbox, there is some Xbox extremists out there that will say every Sony game or whatever, or they will nitpick and say it looks like shit. And they don't really go into the specifics, or they really can't say that, like, oh, you know, Starfield doesn't look all that great, but, you know, I mean, it is what it is. It's a nice little open world game that I enjoyed. It's like some self-admittance needs to come out eventually. This guy's like, oh, I can't do it. The graphics are really bad. Ghost of Tsushima really spoiled me. And I mean, Ghost of Tsushima looks awesome, but I mean, what happens if this game plays better than Ghost of Tsushima, which is a high possibility? Is something that Press Start Kofi said in his first impressions. Like, he said this game plays a lot better, and that's what I'm looking forward to the most. The actual gameplay, the meat of the game, the substance that will keep me playing for hours and hours and hours on end. Mighty Keith says, people in the comments talking about graphics with a Team Ninja game. This is how you know they don't know ball. Team Ninja has always prioritized gameplay over graphics. none of their big hitters look exceptionally good, but they usually play exceptionally good. Here's one from Shokyo. People are dogging on a Team Ninja game for not having bleeding edge visuals, and we wonder why the AAA gaming space is having pockets of implosions right now. Gamers are their own worst enemy. Again, look, let's look at the facts, right? I love PlayStation. Don't get me wrong. I love all consoles. I'm a console hybrid freak, but I love PlayStation. Because of these budgets and stuff spiraling out of control and the overall crazy nature of AAA game development, that's the reason why we're not getting any new PlayStation Studios first party games until 2025, right? Like, we gotta wait. If you love AAA gaming solely and you don't play anything else, you gotta wait for some games, especially from Sony. We gotta wait until 2025, 2026 to see first party, expensive, high implosive graphics, PlayStation fucking high budget bullshit. Like, I mean, just think about it. It is a long road to get what you want. It really is. It is a long road. It is a long haul. And because of that, you gotta wait. So this is why I embrace, hey, sometimes you could do AAA. Sometimes you can scale down AAA. Sometimes you can scale it up. You could do AA. You could do indies. And for the average and common gamer, there is a lot to play, which is why I never really believed the fact when people said, oh, gaming is dead. No, gaming isn't dead. You're just deciding not to play a lot in your repertoire, and no one can say that gaming is dead in 2024 when it's been a bunch of amazing titles that came out. And the last one here is, this funny meme, I guess I'm going to end it here, where this guy said, gamers win high budget and great graphics, gamers win lower budget and mid graphics. So he's signifying the fact that even if a game has high production value, there will be people that will complain about it and say, oh, it looks too realistic. They wasted their load. They blew their load. It's like, if a developer wants to focus on that and they have the cash, go for it, Go for it. As long as it plays good and the gameplay feels fine, it could look fucking phenomenal. I don't care. I'll still play it. And I will commend them in the process. Remember, graphics are only like one cog in the midst of judging an overall game. And then he says gamers win lower budget and mid graphics. So this is when the graphic whores, like the extremists there, they get all uppity and say, oh, I'm not really playing a true next-gen experience, bitch. It's like, look, you're co-signing Ghost of Tsushima, right? And I thought that game was fine for what it was, but look, if you just co-sign the graphics of that game, and if Rise of the Ronin plays better, then it is what it is. Like, sometimes a game will have like mid-gen graphics or a lower budget or like a AA look of graphics and still be phenomenal in gameplay. Like, that gameplay to me is still what keeps me coming back and forth, no matter how the game looks. So I just think that this whole era of graphic mongering between factions is bullshit. I think what a lot of people have lost in translation is not being able to enjoy a game simply because of how it looks and not really understanding the scope and magnitude of what goes into it and taking it at face value. That is what's going on, whether it's like all for or against a game that looks graphically phenomenal, in my opinion. And I think what needs to happen is some rationalization. Like, you need to rationalize what the fuck you're talking about. Like, oh, it looks like a PS3 game. It looks like a PS2 game. Dude, is that a compliment? Because I love the PS2 era, and I know the graphics now, like, the graphics nowadays really blows it away, but, I mean, a lot of my favorite heavy hitters came out on the PS2. Devil May Cry 3, fucking God Hand, Resident Evil 4, like a bunch of Capcom titles, like, really knocked it out of the park. Time Splitters, Tekken 5, The Punisher, like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, like all of those games. San Andreas is not the most graphically appetizing GTA, but it gets the job done with having a robust and big world and a bunch of features that even rival some of the graphically superior GTAs like GTA 4 and GTA 5. Come on now. Like, dude, we're missing the core fundamentals in arguments like this, and I wish people would get some common sense. Either way, this is Renegade Operative signing off. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video defending Rise of the Ronin and how it looks, and like, just to leave off on a note that makes sense, there's always options too if you feel this way. So if you feel that, you know, graphics, that means the most to you over performance, then buy Dragon's Dogma 2. It's going to be at 30 FPS on console. PC people won't have that problem, but it's going to be 30 FPS on console, but look phenomenal. And then there's Rise of the Ronin, where it might not look like Dragon's Dogma 2, but you're getting that game at 60 FPS performance, and it's going to be hot. Both of those games are going to be so much fun. So if you don't like one, just pick the other, and then you don't have to worry about anything. I don't understand the problem. That's another thing that bothers me too. When gamers have options and they don't vocalize and utilize them well enough, it's annoying. Pick one or the other, or just don't buy either, and maybe you'll be happier in your life. I'm signing out. I'll see you guys next time. Later.